So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about how location intelligence is creating new business opportunities, but I'm going to take a slightly different approach from some of the speakers we've seen today. We've started today seeing a lot of opportunities for how traditional geospatial companies, geospatial users can basically expand themselves into the cloud. I'm going to take a slightly different approach and really talk a little bit more about how companies are growing up, starting in the cloud, and taking advantage of geospatial technologies. What you'll see is that the cloud and a lot of the technologies that we've talked about during the course of the day today are fundamentally creating a new ecosystem of companies that are capable of doing some very interesting things. So let me start out by asserting something that we've heard multiple times today, which is that data is everything. There's a lot more data being formed. We've talked about remote sensors. We've talked about imagery. There's a lot of data. But it's not just that there's a lot of data, but that new companies that want to create value need to collect that data, combine that data, extract value from that data, and then deliver that information to the end user. The core of the user experience comes from being able to create value from the data that you're able to extract. Now, one other big trend that anybody who's entering the market today is going to see is that growth is happening, change is happening. Right? Every startup has a hockey stick in their business plan, which means that they have to go in with the expectation that scale is going to happen, their business model is going to change, and that change is going to be constant. So you need to be able to prepare and build your infrastructure, build your solution with the expectation of that change, with the ability to scale and scale rapidly. And you don't want to spend your time rediscovering every few years, every few months, every few days, what it takes to scale. You want to be able to build your solution one time and focus on growing your business and not on trying to manage that scale. And then, as we'll see, new companies are building from location, analytics, and learning as core building blocks. Our moderator spoke about SMACT. I'm only going to mention analytics here, but we're going to talk about cloud and things as we go along. So I'll make up for this. So there's a few trends that we're seeing with new types of entrepreneurship. They're, as I mentioned earlier, built on data. They start with data, they rely on data, they collect data in some cases, they mash up data in other cases, but they are first and foremost data companies. Second, they build from the cloud. They assume that the cloud is where they're going to start, it's where they're going to serve from, it's going to be where they receive their information and where they put it. They do their analytics there, they do their processing there, they provide their customer service there, they provide their sales from there. So the cloud is their starting point, it is also their ending point. And increasingly, they don't consider themselves to be geospatial companies, location companies. They happen to use location and geospatial data to do something completely different, whether it be marketing or personalization or delivering services. They use the geospatial data to create value. So we're going to walk through a couple of case studies to give you a sense of the types of things that are going on and how the cloud and underlying cloud technologies are enabling this new class of companies. I want to introduce you to a company called ParkNav. ParkNav, James mentioned parking and sensors in San Francisco. ParkNav is a Bay Area-based startup that's really focusing on making parking easier. So what they do is focus on parking data, on collecting data about parking, processing that data, analyzing that data, predicting where parking is going to be, and then delivering that information back to users. And doing all of this in real time. This is a typical map that they'll produce. Green is where parking is likely to be available. Red is where parking is not likely to be available. So very simple mantra, which is, go for the green. As I mentioned, they're collecting the data in real time. They're covering the entire city. So they're not waiting for sensors to appear in the streets, but they are taking advantage of sensor data when it becomes available. And they're focusing on street parking, not on garages, not on parking decks, but on the type of parking which is actually the most difficult to find and analyze. And they're fundamentally built on cloud data. They're collecting data from end users. They're augmenting that with data from telecom providers, data from shared ride services and other partners, and then running analytics on that data to build predictive models for where parking is likely to be when you need it. So as you arrive at a particular location, you can predict whether or not parking is likely to be available. Even if a spot isn't currently available, the odds are that that's where you will find parking if you start looking. Now, this actually ends up becoming a very interesting problem, because besides providing a consumer solution, what ParkNav has discovered is this data is incredibly valuable in other contexts, like real estate. It turns out that the availability of street parking has an impact on real estate prices. And so they can provide this information to help with everything from municipal planning to real estate agents helping customers find housing for their vehicles, or housing that supports their vehicle lifestyle. So this is all about algorithms and analytics, all running in the cloud, receiving data from devices and from partners, all landing in the cloud, and then being delivered back from the cloud. Switch to a slightly different model. So we've talked about parking, lots of data outside. Different model is around indoor maps and the use of data and location to provide a new set of services for indoor users. Cartogram is a Seattle-based company that really takes advantage of existing building footprints and then augments it with detailed information about what's going on inside, and then provides a set of services for venue owners, large venue owners, to provide richer interaction with their customers. They build on top of Google Maps and extend it using a collection of cloud services, which I'll describe in just a few minutes. So to give you a sense of the kinds of services that a company like Cartogram provides using indoor maps, they've mapped out the location of hundreds of thousands of retailers to allow you to do specific product searches within the retail environment. So as a user, you are in a large retail shop, you're looking for a particular product, they help you get there. They connect venues together. So they help you find your location from inside of one venue to the inside of the next venue. So point-to-point routing from venue to venue, from where you are to exactly where you're going. They augment the indoor map with information about who you are to provide personalized advertising, not just on the display, not just on your device, but also in displays, in-store displays. For those of you who have ever seen the movie Minority Report, where the advertising follows you around, this is what they're doing. And they're providing concierge services for large venues, whether you're in a high-end health club or in a sporting venue. They can enable the venue operator to provide delivery of goods and services directly to their customers where they are, which increases monetization, increases revenue. Let me give you an example of how this works. I'll illustrate one of their services, which is called NearView. They're using the Google Maps platform to provide the basic framework for the map. They build on top of the Google Maps API to provide indoor information that's delivered to the mobile device. They're also receiving positional data from the device, running that through the Google Maps platform to identify exactly where the user is located, feeding that data through a pub subsystem, a load balancer, into their own application running inside the Google Compute Engine. They've got data running in hosted databases. They've got information stored in blob storage. They're running the analytics inside their Compute Engine application and then pushing that content back out to advertising displays inside the venue. So what you see here is a fully integrated solution built in the cloud, for the cloud, using data that's being delivered to and from the device. No infrastructure of their own. Everything is shared. Everything is running on public cloud infrastructure, and yet this is a complete solution. And this is what today's startups are doing. Talk about third case study. So I talked about one of the themes is using location data to augment the kinds of things that end users are already doing. Making something that feels very natural suddenly be very different because location data is fed in. Cloud Engage is based in Portland. Another company, they've got cloud in their name, so you know they're all about the cloud. What they do is use information about location, and they augment that with information about demographics and weather and other sources to actually change websites on the fly to deliver a very personalized experience right to the end user. And the key here is that they do this without having to change the website. They integrate seamlessly into the website and basically bring location information into the website without having the website creator have to do massive amounts of re-engineering of their site. So this is about creating a seamless experience for the end user who simply is navigating the website, and a seamless experience for the website owner by infusing location information in. So the idea here is simply that a retailer, an online retailer, doesn't advertise when a customer is coming in from Rotterdam today, they'll get advertisements for rain boots and umbrellas. And perhaps tomorrow, if it's sunny, the advertising will change to be about t-shirts and sneakers. In Alaska, you don't want to be advertising swimsuits in the middle of winter. So by providing location and demographics and weather, you can provide that hyper personalized experience that then increases uplift and monetization. And in fact, you can take that a step further and do hyperlocal targeting. They've had a lot of success with auto dealers, as an example, where they can go in and really carve out specific areas that they want to target with particular offers. And in this example, providing advertising to a college campus. They can do advertising based on demographics, advertising based on the purchasing history of that particular location. So again, hyper-local targeting that tends to uplift website conversion by 15 to 20%. So it's a location-based solution, but it's actually augmenting location on top of an existing solution. And again, there's no infrastructure that the company is creating. They're simply building on the cloud in order to deliver all of these capabilities. I want to spend a couple of minutes here just talking about what's really going on underneath the covers. Traditionally, Clouds have really started out by providing co-location space, where you took your own servers and put them inside a data center. And today's clouds largely involve extending that with virtual machines. You're in the business of spinning up virtual machines, spinning them down, figuring out how to configure them. You're doing the same IT work, except doing it with infrastructure that you happen to be hosting. The shift that we're seeing with infrastructure providers, cloud providers, what startups are really relying on is really a new form of cloud, an elastic cloud where they simply deploy their application and the cloud takes care of managing that application for them. If they need more scale, the cloud will scale it up. If they need that content to be distributed in more locations because they suddenly get interest from outside their normal population, the cloud will simply move the application around and create more capabilities in new location, more scale in new locations. So you're seeing more of an elastic cloud being formed where customers don't have to worry about how their infrastructure gets created, how their application gets deployed. They simply deploy it once, and the cloud takes care of making everything elastic. That's our vision in Google for how cloud infrastructure should get built. It's the way Google services are built. It's only the set of services that we're providing to enterprise customers as they deploy into the cloud. So I want to wrap up by just summarizing a few key points. New companies are using location in the cloud. They're starting from the cloud. They're building to scale from the start. They want to focus on running their business, not on how to scale. They're using location not just to provide location to the end user, but to infuse location into existing services and make them better and different and differentiated, increase monetization. They're doing analysis. They're doing compute in the cloud, where they're analyzing that data, finding conclusions and making that information available back to the users. And they're doing deep learning. They're learning the trends. They're finding the information that's buried in that data that is hard to find. And we're seeing, and hopefully as you've seen in some of the case studies I presented, that by starting in the cloud, using location, you can actually be quite disruptive and create very disruptive data models. And with that, thank you so much for your time and attention.